Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here this morning. My name is Samantha Becotte. I'm the president of the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation. I'm joining you from Treaty 6 territory in the traditional lands of the Métis this morning. And again, just thank you all for your continued engagement throughout this process. Saskatchewan teachers sent a strong message to government last night. 92% of teachers voted, and 90% of those voting rejected the GTBC's offer. This vote is a clear demonstration of the high level of engagement of teachers throughout this entire process, and also shows the resolve that they have to fight for their students and for public education. Following the vote, we extended an invitation to the GTBC, asking them to secure a new mandate from the government and SSBA and to return to the table in good faith as soon as possible. Earlier this morning, the Minister of Education made a few comments in the media that I would like to address. First, that class complexity would not be included in any new mandate. And this has consistently been an issue that has been brought forward as a priority, but not just by teachers, by students, parents, and members of the public. We want to ensure that all students have access to the supports that they need to be successful in their education. And the second was a comment from the minister around his desire to better understand the priorities and interests of teachers. And while on the surface, this sounds encouraging, this comment displays the high level of indifference that the minister and this government have shown over the last year of bargaining. It is something that I find very concerning and should be a concern for others in the public that are connected to education or not. The minister has said that the Federation has silenced teachers, but their voice came through loud and clear through this vote and has through their actions over the course of the last year. My question is, will this minister finally listen, or will he continue to ignore the messages from Saskatchewan teachers, their students, and their families? The messages haven't changed. Teachers need to see protections around their working conditions. Students need to see improvements to their learning conditions. And we need increases to compensation that addresses the loss of purchasing power and curbs the growing recruitment and retention issues that are being experienced not just across Saskatchewan, but across Canada. We urge the government and SSBA to provide a new mandate, and despite the minister's comments, a mandate that it needs to include a plan to address classroom complexity. In preparation for negotiations, we made plans for either result of this vote, if teachers accepted the agreement or if they had rejected the offer. I hope consideration of a potential renewed mandate would have been part of the government and SSBA's work over the past 3 weeks as well, while teachers were deliberating on the offer. Completing that work and being prepared with a new mandate would provide an immediate path back to the bargaining table and ensure that there isn't further job action taken. As always, in good faith, we will not hold additional job action if there's a commitment to return to the table with a new mandate. At this time, we have not received a formal response from the GTBC to return to the bargaining table with a new mandate, but I look forward to hearing the response as soon as possible. As always, we will provide 48 hours notice if additional sanctions are imposed. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you raise your hands. Keenan?
Hi, Samantha.
Hi.
You kind of mentioned it there in your start, but what does just this vote tell you about just kind of how unified teachers are in this process?
Well, we have seen the actions of teachers through the rallies that we've been having, the Tell Them Tuesday campaign, and I know that that's not only teachers. I don't even know if a majority of those emails I don't think are teachers, but they're also members of the public. Teachers are absolutely unified. They continue to show that at meetings, at rallies, but also through this vote. Their engagement is higher than we have ever seen it, definitely in my experience being involved with the Federation. But everywhere I go, I hear from teachers about the need to address these issues, and they are committed to that. They have said time and time again, we can't back down now. If we can't see improvements to education in a time where our province is is relatively prosperous in the economy. When are we going to see improvements to public education? We are in a crisis, and if we can't invest in our kids, I'm not sure when this government is going to make that decision. And so absolutely, teachers are united in this. And I think I've heard from people on both sides of the decision. They have said that we are committed to continuing that fight. So regardless of when this bargaining round completes, we know that we aren't going to solve all the issues around classroom complexity in one round. But we'll continue to advocate for improvements in the years to come. This is a decade-long problem, but we need to start addressing it.
You mentioned how the new mandate was to have class size and complexity as part of it, and the minister once again is refusing such a thing. I guess just how would you sort of characterize negotiations from here on out? Is it little things that need to be cleaned up? Is it going to take back to the drawing board and going to be multiple days? I just wonder on your sort of sense of optimism.
Well, when we have a vote on any offer, really, and it's rejected, it provides a reset within the process. And so I do see this as a bit of a reset and a bit of a start over within the process, unfortunately, which I'm hopeful that we can move forward quickly, but it could mean that it's longer. It depends on the response from government. They have the ability to provide a new mandate to their bargaining team. They have the ability to negotiate on classroom complexity. We just need the political will from this government. And if they are concerned about what this looks like, if we can't get that genuine back and forth, then binding arbitration is an option. I know the minister was asked about it this morning, or I heard him asked about it this morning. And I do think that that's something that I hope this government and the SSBA considers to resolve the dispute. It would provide a fair, judicial, unbiased path forward that would look at both sides' arguments and come with a decision on how we can resolve this dispute one way or the other.
Thank you.
Thank you. Genevieve?
Yes, hi. Do you hear me well?
I can, yeah.
Okay. Good morning, Mrs. Becotte. Thank you for your time this morning. There's been rumors circulating about the fact that children and teachers will be in class this summer in July. So could you tell us if, first of all, these rumors are true? And second, if so, what about this summer? Like what is STF's reaction and opinion regarding the fact that some parents, they might reschedule their holidays, and so teachers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is not a decision of the STF. That would be a decision of the Ministry of Education, the government of Saskatchewan, as well as with school boards, local school boards. And it would be disappointing if that was the choice that they made. Our focus has always been on getting an agreement. And if we can get an agreement, then there aren't further job action. I mean, none of the actions that we've been taken needed to happen, except for the fact that government and school boards have remained intransigent in the process. They have refused to come to the table in good faith to address the issues that teachers have brought forward in bargaining, but that have been talked about time and time again. I mean, even recently, we have seen some school boards coming out and talking about how the current budget that's been put forward isn't even enough to maintain the status quo. And we're talking about a crisis in education, and they can't even keep the same level of services and are looking at what more can we cut. That's not right for our kids. Our kids deserve a high quality education, and right now teachers can't deliver that. And so if government were focused on solutions, then we wouldn't have had to have any of the actions that we've had. If we can get to the table and negotiate an agreement, if they send it to binding arbitration, there won't be a need for further action, but any decision about the school year, that is on the Government of Education and the School Boards Association.
Thank you.
Thanks. Lee?
Yeah, I was wondering if the vote against this was more about the classroom size and complexity or the modesty in the pay increases.
That's a good question. I mean, when I talk to members, we definitely hear from them about their priorities and what they need to see within the round of bargaining. And in our preparation, coming into negotiations, looking at what is the top priority, both compensation and classroom complexity were consistently at the top of that list. We are going to do a little bit of data collection in terms of what the membership sees at this point and what they need to see going forward. But what I'm consistently hearing from teachers is it's not a one or the other. When we're talking about recruitment and retention, we need to make sure that we are keeping the high quality experienced teachers who are from Saskatchewan in Saskatchewan. So that means that they have good working conditions, that they're supported in their work, that they feel like they can be successful in that work, but also that we are compensating them appropriately. And that means looking at the Western provinces and ensuring that we are keeping them here and that they're able to be financially stable within their lives and their personal situations. But also that ties into the recruitment. When we're looking at recruiting teachers to Saskatchewan, it's difficult when we are below the Western Canadian average. I mean, at the bottom, starting at this pay scale, so for a new teacher, they're at about 4.5% below the Western Canadian average. And at the top of our pay scale, the maximum amounts across the grid, we're at about 3.5% below the Western Canadian average. So we need to make sure that both of those things are addressed within this contract so that we can address that recruitment and retention issue and ensure that we have a high quality education that's being delivered to students across the province by certified qualified teachers. Derek?
Hi there. Thanks for taking my question. So the NDP has already responded to this. They're on the side of the teachers, and they've said that like change needs to happen. I know in the past they have called for the education minister to resign. I'm just curious, is that sentiment also echoed by the Teachers Federation?
Well, I mean, we try not to make things personal within our messages. I would love to have a positive relationship with the Minister of Education that has a real commitment to addressing the needs of students. And to me, it doesn't matter who that person is, as long as they have the students' best interests at heart and are actively working to improve the experiences in classrooms across the province. I'd be happy to engage in conversations with the Minister of Education at any time. I would hope that there would be a level of respect, recognizing that teachers' messages are my messages. I get my direction from the 13,500 teachers across the province. These aren't personal positions that I take. I am listening to members, and that is the message that I'm relaying to the ministers. So.
Okay, and just a quick follow-up. Are you hoping that this could be resolved over the summer so that you don't have to start the school year with possible sanctions?
I mean, I was hoping that this would be resolved in October last year. We are not trying to delay this process in any way. So we are ready to get back to the table immediately if the GTBC is provided with a renewed mandate. I would be happy if we were able to have this resolved before the school year ends, before May. We are ready to do whatever it takes to get to the table and have negotiations really start. But we've been in this process for a year. We continue to push to try and get a resolution as quick as possible, because that means that the quicker we get a resolution, the quicker school boards are able to hopefully have improved level of funds and improved level of supports that are being applied in their schools and in their classrooms throughout the divisions.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. Will?
Hi, thank you for taking the time this morning. If there is further job action, how will the STF consider graduation and end-of-year field trips?
As always, when we are planning our sanctions, we do not want students to be missing out on any of their instructional activities or any of those extra activities that students take part in within their school community. We don't want to take any sanctions, and that's why I've said our focus is on getting to an agreement. But if government and school boards association are refusing to engage in that process, then we have no other option but to take additional sanctions. And it would be very disappointing if we're forced to take those actions. But there is a way, there's another way that we can resolve this. I mean, it doesn't, you don't have to look too far into history. Looking at Nova Scotia teachers not too long ago, they had a very strong sanctions mandate from their membership, and very quickly their government changed course and provided a renewed mandate and listened to teachers' voices and addressed their concerns. And now the Nova Scotia Teachers Union is presenting a tentative agreement to their membership for potential ratification. I would love that to happen now. So every point in time throughout this process, government has had the opportunity to change course. I hope that they are reflecting and really considering the course of action that they have taken and what their next steps are going to be. I want to get back to the table as soon as possible and avoid any potential action.
Thank you.
Thanks. Stephen?
Kind of following a little bit along the lines as Will's question, is there any talk or any consideration to full job, like a full strike, especially if things persist over the summer where there's a withdrawal of all services to start the school year in September?
Nothing is off the table. As I've said in the past week, constantly consider all potential job actions, what the impact would be on obviously teachers as our members, but also students and their families. And we're always looking at how do we get the government to come back to the table. That is always our goal. How can we get to an agreement? What is it going to take to get to an agreement that has the least disruption but is the most effective? And like I said, I would have hoped that that would have been just our sanctions mandate that we received back in October. But unfortunately, it wasn't. I would have hoped that it would have been the strike days that we had in January, but again, unfortunately, it wasn't. But again, we'll continue to push to encourage the government to get back to the table. I would encourage everyone who listens as well to reach out to their MLAs, reach out to the Minister of Education, the Premier, reach out to the President of the Saskatchewan School Boards Association. That can be done through our Tell Them Tuesday platform. Urge them to get a renewed mandate, urge them to commit to addressing classroom complexity through the collective bargaining process, and we can get to a resolution. It doesn't have to be this hard here in Saskatchewan. We have good people, and I know teachers are committed to having these things addressed. Parents want them addressed. We just, like I said, need the political will to have classroom complexity addressed in a meaningful way here in Saskatchewan. Jeremy?
Hi, Samantha. I'm just wondering how you are going to push the province on class size and complexity when the minister says he's not budging on that.
Well, like I said, this mandate shows clearly that teachers are committed to having classroom complexity addressed in some way within the bargaining process. I know the government and the SSBA have moved slightly with the inclusion of the one line around the memorandum of understanding, but teachers said that that isn't enough, that we need better commitments, because we have already heard from school divisions across the province about potential cuts. I know not all of them are public, but that's what teachers are hearing in their buildings of, we're losing a full-time teacher in this school, or we're losing a couple of full-time teachers across the division. I know I've heard from some teachers that their division is losing 11 teachers or teaching positions. And that just means that class sizes are going to grow, that students' needs aren't going to be addressed. And that is the commitment that we need from this government. I'm not sure why they're so hesitant to include something within our agreement. I know that there is a fear about the experiences that are occurring in BC. I know that there is a misconception about the Teachers Federation trying to take over control. That cannot be further from the truth. We know that school boards have the authority to make these decisions, but unfortunately they don't have the means to raise revenue and they're constrained by funds that are provided by the government through the budget process. So we want to ensure that there's appropriate level of funding and that school boards are listening to teachers and consulting with teachers through that process, but then also that they're being held accountable to ensure that funds that are being provided are actually being directed to the classroom. No one should have a concern with any of those things. People should be looking at how can we improve the experiences of students, and that is our goal.
It's my understanding from the minister's comments today, teachers and the bargaining committee will be talking one way or another on Monday. Just what do you know about that?
Well, like I said, the minister had made comments around needing more information around what teachers are looking for and what teachers' priorities and what their needs are. And as I said, our needs and our messages have not changed from the beginning of this process. We need to see classroom complexity addressed in a meaningful way that ensures that experiences in the classroom are going to improve. And right now, what the government has provided with their commitment along with school boards and what school boards signed on to in that multi-year funding agreement has left a flat line for funding. There's no additional funding incorporated in there to account for inflation or enrollment. And already with that funding level in the budget, school boards are saying that they're having to cut resources. And so those are the needs that we're talking about. It's the nearly 500,000 emails that have been sent through Tell Them Tuesday, telling this government and school board trustees that we have a crisis in education and something needs to be done. And so those are the messages that they should have received. It is unfortunate that a year into this process, now is when the minister says that he needs the information, he's ready to listen. But hopefully this provides us with a path forward that renews their mandate to include classroom complexity and gets us back to the bargaining table. Sasha?
Good morning, Samantha.
Good morning.
So if there are other strikes, aren't you afraid of losing parental support?
Absolutely. I mean, support of parents and support of the public throughout this process is something that we are constantly talking about, but recognizing that any action that we take is going to impact students and their families. But it's not impacting them as much as the decade of underfunding that we have experienced in education. The students who are graduating this year have only ever experienced a decline in supports year after year after year throughout their entire education. We're talking about a generation of students who are being left behind by this government, whose needs aren't being addressed, and that's putting them at a disadvantage when we're looking across Canada. In 2015, we were first in the country for per student funding, and now we are down to 8th and potentially moving to last, depending on what other provincial budgets look like this year. So, I mean, it is absolutely a conversation that we have around our actions and how they impact students and their families. But at the same time, we cannot continue on the course that we are on with underfunding education and diminishing supports in our schools.
And my second question, should students worry about their graduation ceremony and their prom night?
Well, I had also heard from the Minister of Education. I know they made a comment earlier in this year talking about guaranteeing those events would occur. I mean, the best way to guarantee that there isn't further job action is to have a commitment to come to the table in good faith. That is always our goal, and we're committed to doing that. And in that, if we are at the table negotiating and there's a renewed mandate, then there won't be further action. I know that there's a lot of concern about what's going to happen, what's going to be lost in the future, but at the same time, there are solutions out there, and it doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out process. We can sit down at the table, we can find solutions that work for teachers, that work for school boards, that work for government, but most importantly, that work for students, and ensure that every one of the 200,000 students in our schools have their needs met and have improved experiences in their classrooms. Catherine?
Hi, yes, thank you for meeting with all of us this morning, Samantha. Is there a timeline or a cutoff point that the ministry has to respond with a yes or no to get back to the bargaining table?
Well, like I said, we want to hear from them as soon as possible. We don't want this process to be delayed. I know there's been lots of conversation about, events and learning that's happening over these last couple of months of school. But we want to get to the table as soon as possible, and we aren't going to delay the process. So, as I said, 48 hours notice will be provided if there is additional sanctions. And I would urge the government to be reviewing their mandate, listening to the voices that they have heard over the course of the year, listening to the GTBC members who have heard our presentations, who have received the data and information about the challenges that are being experienced in classrooms, and start taking this process seriously. Okay, so not seeing any other hands up, and there's nothing in the chat. I know that there was potentially questions in French. I believe our Associate Executive Director, Angela Banda, is on if there's any additional questions, but otherwise.
I had an interview
with
Canada.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so again, I would just thank everyone for joining us here today, and again for your continued efforts to present the realities that teachers and students are experiencing in their classrooms. As I said, this bargaining process doesn't have to be this hard. There are solutions to classroom complexity in several provincial agreements across Canada. It doesn't have to be the fear of what challenges could be in any one of them. We need to sit down and find solutions for Saskatchewan. And I know that those solutions are out there. We just need to have the political will to engage in the process, to listen, and to have a real commitment to ensuring that we have a high quality education for all of the students and all of the children across Saskatchewan. So thank you so much for joining us here this morning. And I hope you all have a great weekend and happy Mother's Day.